Ethan and Joshua, thank you so much for speaking with the Nocturnal. I mean, I've just watched this series and I am in awe. You're both incredible.
Thank you.
My first question for you guys, I'll start with Ethan. What was it like, I guess, getting into this role? I mean, how did you research John Brown?
Well, he's such an inflammatory, incendiary person, I mean, he's a hard person to make sense out of, a fervent Christian who's willing to take up arms. He's so full of contradictions, so much love, and such a family man and such a fighter. And the first thing I did when I realized that this is really going to happen, I wanted this project to happen so badly. When it got real and it was time to start figuring out how to play him, I drove up to where he's buried. He had a farm in Lake Placid. Before he took up arms, he was teaching escaped slaves to farm. And it's really, his whole family is really beautiful. And so I just went and visited his gravesite. I basically just wanted to say thank you and ask the blessing on the show. And because if you're going to stand in someone's shoes and pretend to be them, I felt like I needed to tip my hat and just say thank you,
That's awesome. And Joshua, this is an incredible role for you. What made you sign on to this particular position? Because it's almost like his coming of age story, yet he's also playing a girl. What was it like with this role?
This role was very complex, like you said. So many different, sides of Onion. And what really attracted me to the role and made me want to sign on to play Onion was the complexity, and really, Onion allowed even myself as Joshua to kind of grow up and kind of mature faster, just like Onion had to do in the actual show. And, Onion, like you said, a coming of age story, learning about love, learning about religion, learning how to survive and fend for himself. It was so exciting to be able to really play Onion and really dive deep into the role.
And you two are the dynamic duo. What was it like casting this? Did you guys do a read beforehand? Ethan,
listen, the biggest decision that we made was young Joshua here. I mean, this show is only going to be as good as he was going to take us. He's our quarterback, and I knew that. And so I knew it was life and death for this project. And when the first time he came in, I thought, uh-oh, here he is. It's on. And then we tested you a bunch of times, didn't we? But I knew in my heart and my head that it's the second he read, because he's smart, funny, but he also has a mind of an athlete, which I really respect. He knows how important the little things are. Showing up on time, working hard. He's willing to learn, and he's curious about learning. And a lot of young people think they know everything. And so they put up a big front pretending that they know everything. And Joshua was just curious and tenacious. He was never late for work one day. He was the first to leave, first to arrive, last to leave. He was a great quarterback.
Oh man, that's incredible. Josh, what do you have to say about that? That's a great compliment. Oh my goodness.
It is a very great compliment.
Especially Ethan, who's done all these amazing projects and
has an amazing career. And I'm just grateful that I was what they were looking for. And I'm grateful to Blumhouse, Showtime, Ethan, Jason Blum for really just giving me the opportunity to bring Onion across the screen.
The backdrop, not the backdrop, but what we're dealing with now in America is wild. And I feel like with this series, the timing is kind of spooky. Joshua, how do you think that young people will take in this series? And what do you think that they will take away from this?
Well, what I think they'll take away, I'm hoping that they will learn about a topic that's a lot of times not really taught about in school normally. And also I want them to be able to not be afraid to talk about racism and slavery in America and not be afraid of that topic.
That's fantastic. And Ethan, I know that you had a hand in writing this full series. I mean, what was that like? And working with, the original writer as well. I mean, what was that like for you?
I had the benefit of, when I first read the book, I met James McBride at a diner in Brooklyn. And he was one of the most serious, kind, loving, brilliant men I've ever met in my life. And I felt a charge to respect his work every day, and so I don't take on any ego about writing. My job as a writer was to protect the writing. I used to say this all the time. It's like, we're taking a syringe and we're sticking it in the book and we're pulling it out and we're pushing it back into celluloid. We don't have to fix anything. Nothing's broken. There's a very strange tone to that book, which is, it's really serious and it's really funny.
Yeah.
And it's almost, people say, oh, you're doing something about John Brown and so slavery must be really serious. And I say, look, this is a story the way Red Fox or Richard Pryor or Chris Rock would tell it. It's not the way Toni Morrison would tell it. It's a different hit on it. And that's what makes it so original and beautiful. And so my job was kind of like more of a lineman. I was just protecting the book all the time.
Well, you did a fantastic job, to the point where I feel like, watching it as a viewer, I want there to be a second part. I mean, is there any hints to that from both of you, Ethan, Josh?
We should talk. It'd be amazing to think about what happens to Onion.
Yeah.
It would be amazing. Maybe Onion joins us. Maybe he's the first Black battalion, riding into Richmond, Virginia. Who knows what's happening to him? But we'll have to talk to McBride about that.
Hey, I'm down for it. Are you down for it, Joshua? Maybe. Who knows? I don't know.
I'm down for it.
Good answer.
That's excellent. Well, Ethan and Joshua, thank you so much for speaking to the Nocturnal. I mean, I know that viewers will be so psyched by this incredible series. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, David, thank you so much for speaking with the Nocturnal today. It's so wonderful. So I'm just so curious. So you started with, an amazing role in your career playing Thomas Jefferson. Now you're playing Frederick Douglass, quite the 180. What made you sign on to this incredible role?
Ethan came and saw a play that I was doing called White Noise, Susan Laurie Park's play at the Public Theater. The next morning he asked if he could meet with me, and we went and got coffee, and he handed me this book, Good Lord Bird by James McBride, and I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't read it. Very highly acclaimed book. And he starts talking to me about it, and I sort of couldn't really process what he was talking about. The story sounded so amazing, and I was like, how does somebody pull this off? I don't know. It's about the abolitionist John Brown, but told through the eyes of a 13-year-old cross-dressing, escaped slave. It sounded totally wild, and Frederick Douglass makes an appearance in it, and it's all through the lens of this character Onion. And he said, I'd really love it if you play Frederick Douglass, but it's a particular take on Frederick Douglass, and I don't know, it might make some people uncomfortable. Just read the book. He was like, read the book. Here are the chapters that Douglass is in, but read the whole book and you'll get it and get back to me. And I opened the book and I read it in 2 days. And I'm not a fast reader, but I couldn't stop reading it. It was the funniest. I laughed so much, and it was so poignant and so and such an incredible slice of history. I learned so much. I laughed so much, and I hit up Ethan immediately and was just like, "What do I have to do?" I'll play this. If I'm ever gonna do another historical figure, this is the way to do it. I think this sort of deeply human king of the Negroes, it was a trip, and it felt like a great challenge. And I'd read some of Douglass's work, but not a ton of it, and so I went back and read a lot of his autobiographies, and there's a great new biography about him that does some really interesting contextualizing of his writing as abolitionist propaganda, which is really fast. Anyway, I nerded out on Frederick Douglass for months because I really wanted to get this right, and then we shot it.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, one scene that I loved, I thought was incredible, was the scene between you and Onion when you guys are drinking. Now, was that improvised or was that scripted? Was how much of it was you? How much of it was Frederick Douglass? I mean,
scripted with some play. I mean, it's lifted. A lot of it's lifted directly from the novel. But yeah, all of that was scripted. Really, hats off to Joshua, who plays Little Onion, who's incredible in this series. And then Darnell Martin, who directed that episode, to sort of have the courage to let the comedy in that scene play. Because we shot it all straight through. It's a 12-page scene. We didn't cut. We shot every time. We shot it straight through. And to do that with a young actor is sometimes a dangerous thing. But Joshua was so on it. We rehearsed a lot, which is rare for TV. And he was so ready and so great and could play so much. So like the energy of that scene, really, I'm very proud of it too, because you don't see scenes like that often on TV where the relationships really get to live like that without sort of chopping it up. And yeah, it was. It's super fun, but it is scripted. There's little moments of like improvisation, but it's scripted and blocked. It's very much like, to get all the camera blocking for that was a thing. We had to hit marks all through it. Another, just like, more hats off to Joshua. That kid, to be that young and able to do that is staggering. The things he does in this TV show are just like, he's going to be a real big deal.
Oh, no, he absolutely is. And I think in that scene, what's incredible is that it feels like theater. I mean, it feels like a theater scene that just plays out, like you said.
That's how we rehearsed it. So, yeah. And everybody, all the women who come in and out too, it took a lot to get it done. And I was incredibly pleased with how it came out.
What do you think that people will take away from this series?
Well, it's, John Brown's story is such a fascinating one, and nobody really talks about it or knows about it. We're certainly not taught it. And I think once you hear like how amazing this life was and what they accomplished, taking Harper's Ferry was really, by this small militia, was the catalyst for the Civil War. There's no Civil War without that. But I was never taught about it in school. Really, nobody was. It's apocryphal. It's like totally ignored. And the thing, I think, the first thought I had after sort of reading the script, but also seeing it completed and watching the whole season, was like, why weren't we told that story? Like, the why of that is really important. Because the answer is because it's instructive, right? Because a small group of people who should have been totally outnumbered and who were not trained, and it should have been impossible for them to do this, took over the most powerful armory in the country, and for a period of about a week brought the whole country to its knees. And if that few people can change the course of America as a power structure does not feel nearly as daunting as it does. We get so frustrated with its inability to change. And most of that is because we don't see examples of, we weren't taught the examples of the times where it was forced to change. And often by not that many people. Nobody joined John Brown's army who was supposed to. The plan did not work, and still they made it happen. And so I think that's the thing that I look back on it and start to think about when a friend of mine said something really interesting a few days ago, which was that he felt, the realization of the last few years is that America's been operating under this gentleman's agreement that that America is not openly fascist or openly racist, that the political and power structure of the country is not, we're not presenting that part, Yep. And then that changed. It changed with the Trump administration, where it's like, yeah, we're racist, and that's great. Let's celebrate it, right? Like, the party line of the country is like, go racism, fuck climate change, like fascism's not so bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the structure we're living in. And so I think now we have to sort of, instead of ignoring this thing, shine a light on that and be like, well, what are we going to do about it? Because I do believe that the bulk of people in this country, the majority of the people in this country, don't believe those things and don't support those things. And even still, with a majority that doesn't support those things, it is very hard to change those things. So what does that say about this idea of democracy that we talk about all the time, where your vote's supposed to matter, right? It brings to light a lot of problems. And so I think this show sort of, in a really entertaining way, and like in a way that's not, it's almost easier to look at because it's not about us, right? We get to look at the past. But it brings up so many issues and forces you to think, and it does it with nuance. It doesn't paint the issue as black and white. It brings up the complications, and this is like the brilliant thing about the novel, and also that the show I think really captured, is that because it's from Little Onion's perspective, he's like 13, 14. He's not trying to change the world. He's trying to live his life. He wants to have his first kiss. He wants to, he wants to not die. He wants to have friends. Like, those are the things that he's doing and that feel worth protecting.
It's like a strange coming of age story. That's really what it is. Which is
exactly.
Wild. But I guess my last question with all this, and I think with your last thought with it, hopefully being inspiring people to take charge. What's next for you? I mean, you've had such an incredible career so far, and you choose very specific roles. So what can we...
Well, I'm back up in Vancouver right now, finishing the second season of Snowpiercer. So we're almost done shooting that. We're in pre-production for the Blind Spotting TV show at Stars. Which we start shooting very soon, which is really centers around Ashley, Jasmine Cephas Jones's character, which we're incredibly excited about. So yeah, those are the easy upcoming things. I have Soul. I'm in Soul, Pixar's new film coming out. I'm playing a small role in that, and I just saw that. It's great. Yeah, and a bunch of other fun things on the horizon that are sort of already in the can for me. New clipping album. My band's got a new album coming out October 23rd. So yeah, just it's been a busy quarantine, but yeah, I don't know. I'm very fortunate that really interesting things have been able to come my way. Right, Good Lord Bird was so interesting. And so I'm in a position right now where I don't have to say yes to things I don't like, which is sort of rarefied air for an artist, as like any artist knows, that you really want to take advantage of those times where like the finances are okay for a second. So like, I keep sort of looking for and helping to create. I'm doing a lot more producing now and helping to shepherd some other stories into production, which has been really gratifying and really fun. And yeah, just trying to sort of maximize my ability to tell cool stories, whether I'm like on camera or not.
That's incredible. I mean, well, that's such a blessing that you continue to have all these amazing opportunities and just bring your voice to light. I think that's what we saw with everything you've done, but especially with Blind Spotting. I'm a big fan of that, so I'm excited to see that with Showtime.
That's good. Yeah, we're riding hard for Oakland this year. It's actually the end of the month, September 26th, where me and Rafael Casal are hosting a fundraiser for Children's Fairyland, which was in danger of going under after the pandemic. It's a kids park in Oakland, so go to the Oakland Children's Fairyland website and you can register just to watch the thing. It's free to watch, but you can donate if you want. It's going to be super fun. It's us and puppets, and like a ton of Bay Area celebrities have come through because Fairyland is really important to a lot of, we all grew up there, so anyway, help us keep that spot alive.
Oh, I'm there for it. Sign me up. Right there. Well, David, thank you so much for speaking with The Nocturnal. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and stay safe in quarantine. Keep doing you.
Thanks. You too.
Well, James McBride, thank you so much for speaking with The Nocturnal today.
Well, nice to be here.
Oh, so great. Well, tell me about this book. I mean, first of all, how did you come up with the idea to write this book? I mean, it's so needed right now, but what went into it in the beginning?
Well, I was working on a novel about something else. Came across John Brown's name by accident. I was down on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. So I just drove over to Harper's Ferry and became fascinated with how this guy had taken on the issue of slavery. And I became fascinated with his personality. He was like a very religious guy who said slavery was wrong. And I I just became enamored with him. And then I wanted to figure out a way to tell a story that would not insult people, but rather make them smile and make them feel good about, you know, getting out of bed. And so how do you do that when you're talking about, you know, American slavery? But I think we succeeded in this case. I think because, you know, but partly because of the story structure and partly because of the great acting and the great production.
I mean, it's incredible that you were able to bring this this series, well, this book to life through a series. And I'm just curious, did you have any say in the casting process? Because these actors are so passionate and they really bring these characters to life.
No, I'd say that was Ethan Hawke's call. I mean, Ethan knows he's a very skilled actor. He's one of the best actors in America, and he has a you know, a big Rolodex. And he was calling some great actors like David Morse and Steve Zahn and Daveed Diggs and so forth. But he was also calling some of the lesser known actors who are just brilliant. And some of these men and women got on set and they just were incredible. I mean, it's rare, I think, the level, the quality of the acting. When you have a series where Orlando Jones makes maybe 4 appearances and just knocks it out the yard every time, you know, you've really got something to work with. And that's the quality. That's really has more to do with Ethan, the respect that these people have for Ethan. And I'm assuming the material as well. I mean, it's rolled it out nicely.
I have a question regarding the character, Onion. What made you, I guess, make him a character that is a female, as a girl the entire time? I mean, I guess it's incredible to see in the series. I'm just curious, what's your background with making her have to go through that while trying to hide during the antebellum movement of America? Like, whoa, there's a lot going on there with this character.
Well, 'cause I'm really a girl in a man's body. I don't know. I mean, you know, I didn't feel confident enough to write about John Brown I didn't feel confident to write from the perspective of an African-American girl who was 12 years old. Now, I've been writing a long time, but I just didn't feel I could handle that and properly. You know, when you write a novel and a good screenplay, you know, the characters have to be real to you. You sleep with them at night. You wake up at 3 a.m. and you say, oh yeah, that's what he did, or that's what she did. I just didn't feel confident enough to do that from the perspective of a little girl who's 12 years old in Kansas City, Mo, at that period. Maybe now, a few years later, I might feel maybe a little more confident to do it. But so I said, let him be a boy. It's pretending to be a girl because I knew it was going to be a funny book. I wanted it to be a book of, you know, funny stories, even though most of the stories are true. Because they're so funny, it's the delivery. So let him be a boy that poses a girl to survive, which during slavery, blacks had to do everything to survive. And then let him tell this story as an old man. So to make it funny, and I hope it worked. Right
now, I mean, as we all know, America is going through its own movement changes. I mean, with protests, everything that's happening with race relations. I wonder, I mean, how do you think that the world will take this series? I think it's the timing is perfect, I think. But what do you think?
I'm hopeful. I never thought we could pull this cancer out this far to examine it and fix it. And so this book is part of pulling out that cancer, and it's part of the healing of the wounds to you know, sort of, this is what we're trying to fix, and this is where it began, or this is an earliest stage of it. So I think it speaks to where we are now, and I think it will help us to dialogue about this and also to be entertained by it, so that we're more informed when we start talking about these issues. Because a lot of times we argue about things that we're not fully informed. So I think it's a great time for this to come out. And
why is it called the Good Lord Bird?
That was a bird that it was so beautiful that when people saw it, they'd say, "Good Lord." It's a big woodpecker.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for speaking with the Nocturnal. It's been so wonderful to just pick your brain as a nerd myself, who's really into the book and also into the series. And I just hope you stay safe and all goes well for you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.